You're telling the server, I am the person who's sending a request. It means you are maintaining the state between multiple requests. You are maintaining the state between multiple requests, or you are making server to remember the client. You are making the server to remember which one? Client. How server remembers the client? You should tell every time, I'm the person. Suppose whenever you come to the class, you show the ID card. So that ID card represents you are a student of this Naresh. If you don't have ID card, then are you recognized as a student? No. Then every time you should tell, I'm a student of Naresh IT. Getting or not? I'm a student of Naresh IT. That is a state. Here also, now whenever client send a request, the server doesn't know this person is, same person is sending a request. Server doesn't know is the same person is sending what request. Getting or not? So it doesn't remember. To remember the client by whom server should go for which management? Session management or state management. Session management or state management, right? So server doesn't remember the client, okay? Because every request sent by client to server is a new request, okay? To maintain the state, to maintain the state, to maintain the state between multiple requests of the client, between multiple requests of the client, okay? So here we are using, okay, we are using session management. We are using session management, or what do you call it as state management. Session management or state management. Okay. Now you should know what is the meaning of session. A session is nothing but number of requests sent by client to what? Server. So multiple requests sent by the client to server, same client to the server, that you can call it as which one? Session. But you should remember, is it request is come from the same client or not? So there are so many technical definitions out there, but I've just given from login to logout. So what is session? So what is session? So any language. What is session in networking, if you say? See, that is what I said. A networking session is a temporary logical and interactive connection between two or more devices, that is client and server, that enables organized multi-message communication. It manages the entire dialogue from establishment to terminate. Establishment is nothing but login. Terminate is nothing but what? Logout. Ensuring data flow continually and maintaining the state. Okay, the data belongs to that same across multiple requests. Maintaining the state between multiple process sessions provide a way to server remembers user state, which is crucial because underlying protocol HTTP are what? Stateless. It doesn't maintain the state. A session invokes the handshake, data exchange, and termination. Okay. So these are some of the definitions are there. Okay, from login to logout. So that you can call it as what? Session. I say no, a session is a temporary secure connection between user to maintain the state for stateless protocols like HTTP. Enables personal experience like login, shopping carts, like this. Okay, right. Getting on on. Okay. So session, so server doesn't remember the client. To maintain the state between multiple requests of the client, we are using session management or what? State management. Okay. So Django allows various types to maintain the state or session. Okay. Now you can say session is from login to logout. So where login, you create a session, logout, you close the session. And when you log in, okay, it's nothing but you're telling, okay, remember me. And then whenever you send a request, the server remembers the request is come from the same client. Because you don't log in every time, right? For every request you log in or only one time? One time. Then when you send a second request, your server remembers or not? Yes. Are you giving username every time or only one time? One time. Then you're telling a server, remember me. Then when you send a request, again, the server remembers you. The request is come from the same client. But how you make the server to remember the request is come from the same client? How you make the server to remember is it same client or not? So that is done by using state management or what? Session management. Okay. So Django provide various approaches to maintain this session. Django provide various approaches. So Django provides so various approaches. Are you getting what I'm telling you? follow here. What I said is, okay, what I'm telling you is, just see it. Okay, now this is, you take Gmail. Gmail is there, no? So Gmail application you take. Okay. So where you enter username, you enter username and you try to give what here? Password. This is, you open the browser. This is browser, right? You open the browser and from browser, you input username and password, input username, password, and click on login. Input username and password and click on login. And once you click on login, okay, suppose this user is some Naresh and some password is given. Okay. And once you click on login, what will happen? The browser will establish connection to server. Establish. What will happen here? Establish connection. It will establish connection to the server. After establishing connection to a server, what your browser will do? Prepare a request. Okay. It will prepare a request, HTTP request, and send this request to whom? Server. Server means you are sending to one view or not? Yes. So this is a views.py. Now you are sending a request to one view. And what view is doing? It is processing that request. Means it will identify this username and password by communicating with the database. And if the username and password is valid, what it is doing now, your view is generating what? Response. Your view is generating a response. That is nothing but HTTP response. So what is the response is one dynamic page. One dynamic page or not? Yes. Here you have all the mails. Okay, you'll have all the mails here. All the mails will be there. Okay, and here you have an inbox. What is there here? Inbox, right? So inbox, compose, like that. You have a lot of things will be there. And here you have a message, hello Naresh. After generating a response, what will happen? Close the connection. After generating a response, what will happen? Close the connection. Connection get closed, right? Then what will happen if I click on the mail? Here I click on mail. I want to see the mail, right? Then when I click on mail, what will happen? What will happen? Again, send a request. Means again it will open connection. Again it will open what? Connection. Establish connection. It will establish connection and prepare. What it will prepare? HTTP request. It will prepare HTTP request and send it to server. And server should display the content of this mail. But this mail is belongs to which user? Which user? But server को मालूम है क्या? नहीं मालूम. Server doesn't know. Server doesn't know this mail is belongs to which one? Naresh. Because here you are given my username, but here are you given username? No. In first request you said this is my username and this is my password. But in second request are you given any username password? No. Yes. Okay. You have not given any username and password. Then how server knows it should display the content of this mail belongs to what? Naresh. How server knows is it this request is confirmed Naresh? It doesn't know. Right? Server doesn't know. Then you should tell the server, okay, the request is come from Naresh only. Every time you should say, I am the Naresh. Otherwise, server doesn't know who are you, right? So for that, you should maintain the state. You should maintain the state between multiple requests. You should maintain the client state. You have to maintain the state. Means you should tell the server, you should tell the server the request is come from the same client. So that can be done by maintaining the state. Okay, that maintaining a state by using some different approaches, and that you can call it as session management or session tracking or state management. That is called as a state management. Okay, session management or state management. Okay, this is clear. So this approach from login to, yeah, from login to logout, that is your session data. From login to logout. Okay. Okay, right. Now, when it comes to the Django, Django provides various approaches for session management, or session tracking. Okay. So actually there are 5 approaches it will provide. One is called as a database. First one is called as a database sessions. What is the first one is called as a database session? And second one is called as a case study sessions. Okay, this is a second one. And third one is called as a case study database sessions. Okay. And fourth one is called as a which is called as a file based session. So this is called as a file based session. And fifth one is called as a cookies based session. Okay, this is generally you call it as signed cookies based session. So there are different approaches, but Django provide how many approaches here? 5 approaches. That is database sessions, case study sessions, and case study database sessions, and file based session, and signed cookies based session. But all this session management except signed cookies based session, everything is managed at the backend. Everything is managed by whom? Backend, right? For example, first we'll talk about database session. You understood what is session? What session contain? Client data. What session contain? Client data. And that data is used by the server to recognize which one? Client. Okay. What session contain? Client data. So whenever client send a request, it will identify this request is from the same client by just using what? Session information. Ring on. So it is a way of exchanging the user state between the client and server. How you are exchanging it? By using different approaches. That is database, case study database, file based, and signed cookies based session. So first we'll see, okay, this is called as which one? Database sessions. This is called as a database sessions. So database sessions. So in database session, okay, the client data in database session tracking or session management or management, okay, the client data is persist. The client data is persist or stored within what here? Database. Where the client data will be stored in database. For example, if you take online shopping, okay, where you add so many products in the cart. Yes. Okay, you keep on adding the products within the cart. It means those are the products belongs to you. Yes or no? Okay, when you open again, will it show the same products or not? Yes. It means those are the products or information belongs to you, right? So that is a data belongs to the user. Yes or no? That is a data belongs to that user. Which user? The user who's logged in. But where that session data will be stored? That session data can be stored in database, and it can be used in stored in server cache, or it can be stored in what? File. So that whenever user log in, it get what? That session data. Getting on? Okay, that session data. So in database session management, the client data is persist or stored within the database. It is stored within the database, and whatever data you are storing within the database, okay, that data is temporary or permanent. Permanent. The data is not temporary, right? That is a permanent. So for that, your Django provide an application, a built-in application provided by Django. What is that built-in application? Is session. It provide one built-in application, and that application is called as which one? Session. So in database session tracking or management, the client data is persist or stored within database. But data is stored within the database, but data will not be exchanged. But one thing is exchanged between the client and server. And what is that exchange? Is session ID. Which one is exchange? ID. ID means how the client is recognized with ID. How client is recognized with ID. Every client is given one unique ID. Okay, data will not be exchanged. If data is exchanged between the client and server, it will take a lot of time, because every time I should send a data from client to server and server to what? Client. Okay, but data is not exchanged between the client and server. ID is exchanged between the client and server. But whenever client requires the data, it will take that session data from where? Server database. It will take from where? Server database. You have to remember this. In database session tracking or management, the client data is persist or stored within, it is stored within what here? Database. It is stored within the database. Okay. And this is actually this is a default session management. This is a default session management used by Django application. This is a default session management used by Django application because it is secure. Means whatever data you store within the database, is it secured or not? Yes. But rather than storing data in the browser's cookies, but instead of storing the data within browser client machine, you are trying to store the data in which machine? Database server machine. So that is secure. And you can able to store large amount of data. Okay, it allows to store, it allows to store, it allows to store large amount of large amount of data, and it is it is what here? Secured. It is secured because whatever data you store at server side, who will provide the security for this data? Server. But if you store the data within the browser, sometimes what happens, see, you save the usernames and passwords into the browser history. Okay, is it that is secured or not secured? Not secured. Okay, browser is intelligent, right? So it can able to save the data. It can able to save the data. Browser means client. Browser is who's a browser now? Client, thin client. On behalf of user, everything is done by whom? Browser. So browser, when you open the browser means you are a client. Browser is a client, and that contain the information about what? Client, like username. Now, whenever you send a request to the server, it will send the username which is stored in what? Browser into what? Server. Getting on it? Okay. It will send from browser to which one? Server. That is how it recognizes. But whatever you store within the browser, it is not secured. It is not secured, right? So in database session tracking or management, session management or this one, the client data is persisted or stored within database, and this is default session management used by Django application. It allows storing large amount of data and it is what? Secure. So what will happen here is, what will happen in this approach is, what will happen in this approach is, here, you are trying to log in by giving username and what is it? Password. Then request is sent. What view is doing is, for this user, suppose it will verify this username and password is valid or not. If the username and password is valid, what will happen? It will create a session. What will happen? It will create a session. Who's creating a session? View. Who's creating a session? View. View is creating session. When? If username and password is valid. It is creating a session, means it is trying to store this information into one table. It will store this information into one table. Okay. For this user, it is creating what? Session. Every session is identified. Every session is identified with what? ID. So it means for this client, it will create, it will create what? ID. Who's creating? View is creating. How to create? I'll tell you. So this ID is random. Now one. What is I've given one. Okay, but there is random session. There will be large session IDs that will be encrypted format, right? So here I just use session ID is what here? One. And here you have a data belongs to what? That client. Okay, now what is the session ID is here? One. Session ID is one. And what is the data is? Username. What is the username? Naresh. Okay, now then after that, it is generating a response or not? Yes, who generating? View. View generating a response. It will generate a response by sending. What it is sending here? Session ID. It is sending a session ID to whom? Browser. But how it will send the session ID to the browser? By sending as a part of which one? Cookie. It will send by storing into one cookie. And send it to which one? Browser. In browser it will store. Inside the browser, what it will store? Session ID. What is the session ID is? One. Now, what will happen when now connection is closed or not? Yes. Now, when you send again one more request, suppose I click on which one? Mail. When I click on mail, what will happen? Establish. Establish what? Connection and send a request. And it will send the request along with what here? Session ID. What is the session ID is? One. What server? How server recognize? By reading what? Session ID. It will read the session ID from what? A request. Is it this session is exist or not? Yes. Then read the data and recognize. Okay. Is it this request is having session ID or not? Yes. This request is having what? Session ID. Now, using this session ID, it recognize this request is come from which user? Naresh. Then it will get the content of which mail? This mail belongs to whom? Naresh. What is exchange between the client and server here? What is exchange between the client and server here? Session ID. What is exchange between the client and server here? Session ID. Session ID is exchange between the client and server. So which one is there in the browser's history is session ID. And you can make this as a persistent as well as non-persistent. But you understood this? Follow here. Okay, so the session ID is exchanged between the client and server. Okay, yes. But there will be one table. There is one table created at which side? There is one table is there at which side? Server side. There's a table created at which side? Server side. Okay, let me write this. So how database session work? Okay, but we'll see basic steps later. So the first one is, okay, what will happen first? Server. Server create. What will happen? Server creates what? Session ID for each client. Session ID for each client. And this is session ID. This is session ID is stored inside browser. Inside browser in the form of what? Cookies. Cookies. It is stored in the form of cookies. A cookie hold small amount of data. Cookie. Cookie malum hai na? Cookies where you'll find some day cookie hai, cookie biscuit hai. Okay. So this contains some small amount of data, right? So here cookie is an object which contain key and values. And these key and values get stored inside what? Browser. So what server is storing? Session ID as a key and session ID value is what? Value into the browser. So that whenever client send a request, whenever client send a request, when client send request, when client send a request, what will happen? Send along with ID. Along with what? Session ID. So server read session ID and recognize which one? Client. So this is what will happen. Means how it is linking client and server every time. Client to server linking is done with what? Session ID. Okay. So here in this approach, in this approach, okay, client to server linking, client and server linking is done using session ID. Client to server linking is done using session ID. Understood? Right? Every time it is showing what? Session ID to the server. Okay. So then what are the basic steps to work with database sessions? Okay. But only session ID is exchanged, but not data. So data belongs to the client. Data belongs to client. Data belongs to client is stored inside what? Database. It is stored in database table. Data is nothing but state. For example, online shopping, you add some products. That products belongs to that user or not? Yes. But where those products get added in session, that session is created at which side? Server side within the database table. So where those products get stored in the database table. So that whenever user log in, it just get that data from what? Database table. Okay, right? Yes. So in this approach, client and server linking is done using session ID. But data belongs to client is stored inside database table. This is how it increase efficiency. Without exchanging which one here? Data. Without exchanging the data, this is what will happen. Okay. Yes. Okay, now this is first you have to know this. The next one is what are the basic steps? What are the basic steps for working with what is a database session? Okay. So first step is you have to install the following application. Okay. So what is the application in settings.py? This is in settings.py. So you have to install one application called Django dot what is it? Contribute dot what is the name of the application? Sessions. Now this should be installed. This application should be installed. So by default, it install. If not, you have to install this application. If not installed, then you have to install this application. Now just go to settings.py. Now see, is it this application is there? Yes. What is the name of this is Django dot contribute dot sessions. The second step you have to check in middleware. This is in settings.py. Install the application. Okay, settings.py. Just open settings.py and install the application. The second one is install. Install which one? Middleware. So middleware, what is the use of middleware? I'll tell you. Now this is in settings.py. You have to look for this middleware is available or not. What is the name of the middleware? Django dot contribute dot session dot middleware dot session middleware. So it is a mediator between not client and server. Okay, not client and server, right? Okay, not mediator between client and server. Okay, it's nothing but pre-process the request and post response. That is done by which one? Session middleware. Now you have to see this middleware is there or not. Install the middleware. And third one is now you have to do one more setting, like you are storing this inside what here? Database. Now you have to define the session, create. You can say create the following environment, following variable in where here settings dot what is that? Py. If it is there, no problem. If it is not there, you have to create it. What is the name of the variable is? Okay, there is no variable here. There is no variable called session engine. You have to create one variable called which one? Session engine. And what is that session engine is? What is that session engine is? Where you are storing the session? Database. Where you are storing this in? Database. Now create the following variable in settings.py, and there is one predefined variable. And what is the name of the variable? Session engine equal to what I'm saying, Django dot, what is it again? Contribute. Django dot contribute dot sessions. Django dot contribute dot sessions dot, what is this here? Backends. Okay, backends dot DB. So it means you are maintaining the session where in the database, where you are storing the data about that client in database. You have to define the session engine. Okay, because where this session details will be stored in one table. Okay, one table. So there is one table created here. One table created, you can see that. Okay, just to see when you do migrations, right? Let's go to migrations here. What is this database here? Bank. Okay, show tables. You can see all these tables. And in this, now can you see anything like Django? What is that? Session. Okay, Django session. What is the name of this is? Django sessions here. Describe this. Describe. Okay, describe. What is the name of this is? Django session. So you can see session key and session data and expiry date. So session key is nothing but session ID. Session key is nothing but session ID. Okay, when you do these migrations, it will create this table. Now you have to create this table. You have to do what your first migrations. If you forgot migration, then will this be created or not created? Not created, then you cannot maintain what here? Session. You cannot maintain the session. Okay, you cannot maintain session. So this is a structure. Now it will create one table where the data is stored in one table. And what is the name of the table? Django underscore what is that? Session. But when this will be created? When you do the migrations. When you do the migration, it will create this table. And this table contains, okay, this table contain these fields. Okay, all these are fields which are there in this table. Okay, right now this is a table. And in this, what is the first one is? First one is what here? Session key. And what is session keys represent? Session ID. This column holder, what is that holder? Session ID. And this is unique. This is unique here because this column is what here? Primary key. And next one is session data, means information about client. Information belongs to client, and that is stored in session data. And there is an expire date. There is an expire date. It's nothing but this you can call it as expiry. What do you call it as? Timestamp. This is called as expiry what here? Timestamp. Means you want this session to be exist. You want this session to be exist for how long? Okay, you define expiry date. You define what here? Expiry date. That you can call it as which one? Timestamp. Okay. Now all this information will be there inside what? Django underscore session. Okay, right? Yes. I think you understood this one. Okay. Yes, these are the basic steps. Now these three things should be done. So before third step, before this, first after identifying all this, make migrations. What? Make migrations. If you don't do migration, this table will not be created. Make migrations and migrate. Okay, make migrations and migrate. Make migrations and migrate. Okay. Then how to create a session? How to create a session? Okay, how session will be created? How to create a session? Okay, just to see. Okay, how to create a session? Now here, how to create session and store data. How to create session and store data. Okay, so actually session is created. Okay, session is created using which object here? Request object. Session is created using which object? Request object. Is created by using which object? Request object. Okay. Now what is the syntax of creating a session is you're trying to write like this. Okay, request of. Okay, now whenever you are saying request of, okay, some key, equal to which one? Value. Now whenever you say request of key equal to value, it identifies is it request contain any session information. Is it request is having any session information? It identifies. Is it request is having any session information? Okay. If the request is having any session information, what will happen? It will read. It will read and modify. This is modify. Create as well as what? Modify. It is like dictionary or not? Yes. If the key is there, what will it do? Modify. If the key is not there, what will happen? Yes. Getting on. So it is for reading as well as what? Writing. It is reading. Now using key, you can read as well as what? Right. If I'm saying request of key equal to value, in the request, what will be there in the request? Request means what? Input. What is the request is? Input. Now when client send a request, they go here. When client send a request, first time, see here, first time is sending a request. In this request, is it any session ID is there? Tell me, is the session ID is there or not there? Not there. Not there. When you write here request of key, what will happen? It will identify this request is come from which client. But is it request is having session ID? No. Then what will happen? It will create. What will happen? It will create. What it will create? Session. But who's creating that? Middleware. Who's creating that? Middleware. There is one middleware is there, no? What is that middleware is? What is that middleware? Session. What is the middleware? Where is middleware here? Session middleware. Middleware is a mediator between server and view. Server and what? View. Now server send a request to what? View. Client send a request to server. Server send a request to what? View. Before sending a request, it will send first request to what? Middleware. Now this middleware identifies, is it this request contain any session ID or not? It will identify, is this session contain, is it request contain any session ID or not? If the session ID is not there, what will it do? Create. If session ID is there, will it create a? No. It just send a request to which one? View. Thing on. So who's identifying the request is having a session ID or not? Middleware. Middleware will identify. Now who will create a session now? Middleware is creating. Who's creating? Middleware. Create a session. If session is not exist. If session is not exist, it will create. Where should it exist? In request. Who's sending a session ID into the request by browser? Because When you send a first request, browser doesn't contain any session ID. But when you send a second request here, when you click on this mail, is it sending a request or not? Yes. This request is having what now? Session ID. Now middleware, will it create a session? No. Is it? No, middleware doesn't create a session. Because is it this request is having a session ID or not? Yes. Understood? Right? So who's identifying is it session contain information or not? So this is how to create a session and store data. This is for storing. The syntax is for what? Storing data. This is storing or updating the data of session. But actually, session is created by middleware. Okay. So what will happen? Yes. Now here I'll write first creating. This is storing data. Syntax of what? Storing data within what? Session. Backend table. Then session is created by middleware. Session is created by middleware. So before middleware, what is middleware? Is a program. Middleware is a program. Okay, middleware is a program which is executed before sending request to view, and before sending response to client. Sending a response to client. Before sending response to client, before sending request to view. So middleware identify is request contain request contains which information? Session ID or session info. If not exists, it creates. If not exists, it creates. What it creates? Session and send a request to view. Okay. When if it is not exists. If exists, it doesn't create session. Okay. Yes. Then after that, how you are storing now? No syntax for creation here. It is done by whom? Middleware. It is done by whom? Middleware. Okay. Session middleware. And session data is stored by using which object? Request object. Okay. So session data is read. Session data is read or store. Okay. Using which object here? Request object. It is done both. Storing as well as what? Reading. Both are done. Storing as well as what? Reading. Both are done by using this. Okay, right? Storing and reading both are done by using this, but it is actually what? Dictionary. Syntax of storing data within session, and how you are storing is request dot. Request is object or not? Yes. Request is which type of object? HTTP request object. Dot. There is one dictionary called which one? Session. Of a key equal to which one? Value. This is storing data. This is what? Storing data as a key and value. And if you want to read data, how to read? This syntax is for both. Updating also. This syntax is okay. This syntax is for storing and updating session data. Okay, then you have a syntax. There is a syntax of reading data from where? Session. How can you read? Session is a dictionary or not? Yes, you can read it by using which method? Get method. You can read it by using which method? Get method. Request dot session dot which one? Get. And get it followed by key. If the keys exist, then it reads value. It read what? Value. So how you are storing the data within the session as a key and values? How you are storing the data within session as a key and value? If you want to delete the data, we can use which key? I mean, which keyword? Delete keyword. Okay, now first we'll see this is storing and this is what? Reading. Let me tell you one application here, right? Yeah, simple application we'll see. Open the VS Code. Okay, open one more. So here create a project.
मेंटेन करता है लगा था
So it is taking some time, okay, more time.
हजबैंड
But
देखा
I said no,
हां
like if you see number of examples, it will take time.
सुंदर अच्छा
No examples,
really
then
हेउथि अनि
it will not take that much time.
और पलानी
Okay,
चालू सब
so that is what you have to remember. Abhi, you might think that when the course will be over.
सियाग ने
Okay,
किया
now there is again so many topics are there. You have to learn how to build your own middlewares, how to work with admins, roles, okay, authentication, predefine authentication and what authorizations. So and building middlewares, okay, and then next you have to learn RESTful API, like REST API, how to build your own APIs. Okay, all these things are there, but you should have a patience. Now I don't have patience. I want course to be completed means we'll sit for one Sunday.
No,
We'll sit for one Sunday. That is what I said now.
ତମେ ଅଳ୍ପ
When the
ତ
Django course is over,
25% ଜଣା ପଡୁଛି
जब आप सोचते today course is over, over.
ହଁ କରିଦିଅ ନହେଲେ ସାର୍
Yes or no? That depends on you only. Abhi,
ରେଷ୍ଟ ଏତେ ପଢେ ନା ମାଷ୍ଟର
okay, so when you think that today is my last class, then that is the last class.
ସେଇଟା
Okay. When you think that today is my last class, that is your last class. Completion is not a big task. I said already. कल बैठेंगे बोले तो बैठेंगे. I don't have any problem. एक संडे खत्म. मेरे को कुछ नहीं होता यार. Because if I complete this batch, I'll get one more batch. Yes or no? If I complete a batch, I'll get one more batch. I'll get one more batch or not? Yes. Then who's a loser? I'm a loser, right? If I teach more number of days. अभी ज्यादा पढ़े तो ज्यादा दिन पढ़े तो किसको प्रॉब्लम है? मेरे को प्रॉब्लम. Because if I'm teaching some 3-4 months, then it's problem for me only, no? सही है ना? जल्दी कंप्लीट करते और एक बैच आता है. और एक बैच आ रहे. एक महीने में कंप्लीट करे तो क्या होता है? यस. सर नो. तो सबर रहना यार, सबर करो. क्या बोलते हैं सबर का? हाँ, राइट. अभी anyway, no problem. Django admin, what do you do? It start project. Start project. Project. So I think some people they don't know how to create project. Yes or no? It's a truth here. Truth. Okay, truth should be accepted, right? Okay, थोड़े महान लोग रहते. महान लोग.
अरे तार हस्बैंड आज ताको मेंशन करछि स्टोरी पर पकोछि खाइ था पी था रोइ था मते त आगे खाली को प्राइवेसी रखडा भलो खाली प्राइवेसी पाइ कोन रख करिया प्राइवेसी रखि दे बेसी प्राइवेसी हां ले प्राइवेसी टाइम ले सब चेंज होवे जे यूनिवर्सल ले गोटे भोजी करछथि जिन बागर वाला भोजी होई खाउछि सब आउछथि खाउछथि सिंत जाउछथि आ कोन ना एरा कोटिटे जाइछन्ति ओरा सेलिब्रेट
So create a project here. So 26, okay, 25, 26. Start project. Okay, right? And then open the application. Now create a separate database, right? Don't mix up with this database. Okay. अरे लड़ना नहीं यार. लड़ना नहीं. नहीं लड़ना यार. You people are friends, है? No. You people are friends, right? We are our friends. I'm also your friend. No, yeah. No.
You are getting old, sir.
I'm not your friend, your enemy. No. कभी कभी गुस्सा आता होगा. आता नहीं आता. सुबह सुबह दिमाग खराब कर रहे हो. सही है नहीं. सुबह सुबह उठा रहे साथ बैठ के.
ଆମ ମାଷ୍ଟର ତ 10th ରେ ମାଷ୍ଟର ମନ
So
ତ
create the application.
ହଁ ସାର୍ ଆପଣ ଗୋଟେ ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି ହଁ ଆମ ମାଷ୍ଟର ଟେକି ଫିଙ୍ଗି ଆଗ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରିକ୍ଟ ଥିଲେ ପରେ ଆମ ବେଚ ଉପର ବେଚ ଟୁ ଟିକେ ଲୁଜ ହେଇଗଲେ
अबे see, application development has become very easy. Now just learn this AI. what is it?
ଆମ
Anti-gravity.
ବେଷ୍ଟରୁ ଟିକେ ଲୁଜ୍ ପଡ଼ିଗଲେ
Yes.
ସେ ଟପିନ ତ
So
କଣ
just
କୁହ
see that.
ବେଶୀ ଦବ ତାକୁ ଧରିବାର ଅଛି
So
ତାକୁ
because
ଗଲେ
there are so many tools are there, right?
ଫ୍ରେଣ୍ଡଲି ବହୁତ
Okay, please try to
ଗୋଟେ
see.
ପିଲା ଥାଉ
I'll tell you if
ଡନ୍
time is
ଟାଇପ୍
there.
ଟପିନା
I
କେମିତି
mean,
ଟପିନା
maybe one Sunday I'll tell you how to build within one
ମାଷ୍ଟର
application within 1 hour.
ଶୀତ ହବାର
Within 1 hour, how
ତାକୁ
to build
କହିବେ
one
ଆଉ
project.
ଟପିନା ମାତା
1
ଝିଅ
hour.
କଥା ହବନି ହଁ ସାର୍ ଦେଖିବନି ମାତା ଝିଅ ବୋଲାଠୁ ସିଏ ଆଗ ଫାଷ୍ଟ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ କରିଦେଲା ଏତେ
Django
ବାଟେଇକି
application
କହିବାର
within
ହବ
1
ମ୍ୟାରେଜ
hour.
କରିନି
Okay, that
ବୋଲି
is where will it AI will take your job, sir?
ସମସ୍ତେ ହଉଥିଲେ ମୋର
No, no,
ଫାଷ୍ଟ
yes,
ହେଇଯିବ
sir. No, AI will not take your
ମୋ କେସରେ
jobs.
ନିଆ ହେଇଛି ବାକି
So there is a lot of problems with AI, right? Tell me what are the problems? Lot of problems are there. Huh?
ମାଷ୍ଟର ଯାକ ମାଷ୍ଟର
Lot of problems
ମାଷ୍ଟର
are there.
ଥିଲା ମାତ୍ର ଝିଅ ଯାକ ଏତେ ସପୋର୍ଟ ନାହିଁ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ
Any
କରିଥିବ ବୋଲି କହୁଥିବେ
see here.
ହାଇ ସାର୍ ତା ମମି କହିଛି ଆଉ
See this
ଏବେ
one.
ମଝିରେ ମୁଁ ସେ 10th ମାଷ୍ଟର ଦେଖିଲି ଯେ
Problem
ସେ
बोले तो नहीं
ବନ୍ଦନା
मालूम.
କରିଥିଲେ
Huh?
କଣ ରେ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ କଣ
Yes.
ଆକୁ ଆହୁରି କେତେ କେତେ କେବେ ଯାଇ ରହିବ ବୋଲି ସେ ମାଷ୍ଟର ପିଲାଙ୍କୁ କହିଲେ ହଁ ସାର୍
AI is not 100%
ଆଗା
accurate.
ମାଷ୍ଟର ମ୍ୟାରେଜ କିଛି
Accuracy,
ଛାଡିବନି ଆଉ ଟିକେ LIC ଏକ୍ଜାମ ଫେଲ
security,
ଅଛନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କେ
lot of
LIC
problems are there.
କରିବା
Okay. So still you cannot overcome that. AI cannot overcome humans, right?
ହଉ
So
ତମେ
human
କର
thinking is
ରଖ
different than
ନହେଲେ
what? Machine
ଏକାଉଣ୍ଟ ମୋର
thinking.
ଟାଇମ୍ ନାହିଁ
So human always think in one way only, but machine thinks in different ways. एक ही क्वेश्चन को बार बार पूछे तो हर एक बार एक एक आंसर आता है, but human will give different answer or same answer, same answer. But is it accurate or not accurate? Not accurate.
ବୋଲେ ପଛପଟେ
I
ଗୋଟେ
mean, if you
ସୁନା କଳା
say,
ହେଇଯାଉଛି ପୁରା
like suppose I said
ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ
already, one question you asked it, if you say wrong, then it's a wrong only, even though it is correct. So that accuracy will not be there here. That is in still testing, right? Okay, anyway, no problem. So it is only a bubble. That's it.
ଆମେ ଏଇଠି ବହୁତେ ଯାଇକି
Yes.
ସେଇଟା ବହୁତେ
Now, after doing this, you check is it these are installed or not.
ନହେଲେ ରଗ ମାରି
Go to settings.py and identify. Okay, identify this. These things are available or not. Okay.
ଖାଇବାର ପିଇବାର ସେମିତି ରାତିରେ ଶୋଇବାର ହେଲେ ସେମିତି
Okay, now session is there and all the things are there. Now what you do is install the
ପାରା ଅଣ୍ଡା
application,
ଖାଇଛନ୍ତି କାଲି
but your application doesn't create any model.
ନିଜେ
Your
କହିଲେ
application
ଭଲ
doesn't have
ଆମେ
any
କେତେ
model,
ଭଲ
but
ଖାଇଲେ
these
ଆଉ
are
କଣ
installed
ଖାଉଛୁ
applications are not. Yes, there is admin,
ଜାଣିଲେ
authentication,
ଦିଦି
content types,
ଦେଖିଆ
sessions,
ନିଜେ
messaging, and what is that? Static files and
କରି ତାଙ୍କେ
application.
ଖାଇବା ଆଉ
One.
ସିଝେଇଲେ
Now what do you do it? Migrate it. Python manage dot
ମତେ
create.
ଭାବିଦେଲେ କେମିତି ଲାଗୁଛି
So if you want to create a
ଏ
separate
ଅଣ୍ଡା ଯାହା
database,
ଦଉଛନ୍ତି
create
ଏ
it.
ଅଣ୍ଡା ବୋଲି କେମିତି କେମିତି ଲାଗୁଛି
But here we are
ପାରା ଅଣ୍ଡା
this database. Django DB backends, SQLite 3. But here you have to configure certain things, right? What is it? What do you have to configure? Session engine. You have to configure what? Session engine. Session engine is there. Okay. What is a session engine is database. Okay. You have to create one. Yeah, you have to create one environment variable. Means where you are trying to store the data in database. Okay, create this variable anywhere, but I'm creating at the end. So what is the name of this variable is session engine. It is a predefined variable. It is not user defined variable. It is a predefined variable. So django.contribute.sessions.backend.db, right? Now define the database array. This is see here. Here I'm creating one variable. So this is a variable which I created. And what is the name of this is session engine, right? And configure the database. Now create one new database. So create database. What is our project is project 26 DB. Okay now. So use project 26 DB. Okay. Yes. So use the backend now. So just use what is the backend is MySQL. And what is the database? Select the database here. So project 26 DB. Okay, right? Project. Okay, then define the user. And user is what? Root. And define the password. And password is what? Root. And define where your server is running. So this is nothing but local host. And define the port number. So this is a port here, right? So after writing this, migrate. So Python manage.py make migrations. But there's no migrations because you not build any models. Your application doesn't have any models. So Python manage dot py migrate. So you have to do migrate. Now you can see all these tables get
ସେଟା
created.
ମ୍ୟାରେଜ ଆଗରୁ ଭାଇ କହିଲେ ତମେ
All these are
ସଡନ
created.
ଟା
Just see
ଅପଲୋଡ ଯିବା ପାଇଁ ବୋଲି
at the back end.
ପଳେଇଥିଲେ
Just go to the
ପଳେଇଥାନ୍ତେ
back end database
ଏକ୍ସପିରିଏନ୍ସ ଗୋଟେ ହେଇଯାଇଥାନ୍ତା
and show what is that tables. Now in this, what table is created? What is the name of this is? So in this, is it this table is empty or not? Yes. Django underscore session.
ପଇସା ହେଇଯାଉଛି ବାହାରେ
No rows. Now we'll try to create sessions. But we'll see that not today because it will take time, right? So I mean, day after tomorrow, Monday, I'll tell you how to maintain this session, right? Thank you. We'll see you on Monday. Right? I'll upload the notes. Okay, don't worry.
ବିଜନେସ ରେ ଯେତିକି ଲାଭ ଜବ୍ ହେଲେ ନାହିଁ ଖାଲି ମାଇଣ୍ଡ ଖାଲି ଅଛି
I'll upload here.
ଘର ହେଇଗଲା ଆଉ କିଆଁ ଗଲୁ ଗୋଟେ ଝିଅ ପାଇଁ ତ ସ୍ନାତକ ଅଛି ମ୍ୟାରେଜ କରୁନାହାନ୍ତି ଗୋଟେ ଝିଅ ପାଇଁ ସଫିସିଏଣ୍ଟ ହେଇଯାଇଛି ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଝିଅ ପାଇଁ ଛୋଟ ପିଲା ଯାକ ମାମୁଁ ବେଶୀ ଡର ପଠେଇ ପାରିବି ବୋଲି ମାନେ
Follow here.
ଏତେ ସରୁଛି
Results आ गए.
ଏବେଠୁ
Result आया है.
ରଖୁଛନ୍ତି ଆଗକୁ କଣ ପାଇଁ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍ ନେବି ଏବେ ରଖିବିନି ଆଗକୁ କରିପାରିବି ରଖ କି
अपन नहीं बनाते. Session ID ऑटोमेट जनरेट होता है. रिक्वेस्ट तो नहीं है. नहीं है. नहीं होता. रिक्वेस्ट डिलीट होता है. वो लोकल है. रिक्वेस्ट इज ऑलवेज लोकल वेरिएबल. ऑब्जेक्ट डिलीट.
और किसी नहीं किन सब कर दो हम खाली सांत्वना करते पानी किसी देखा
बोलो बोलो.
देखो ये होता है चल लाइव कोई लाइव खाली करियो देती नोट साड़ी फोन करते